pressure off the edge, and it's intercepted. D'Angelo Pons roll out the big red carpet. Touchdown, Indiana.
It's time for the big red carpet. Here's your host, Rhett Lewis.
We do roll out that big red carpet for a Hoosiers team now 10-0 after arriving back in Bloomington with their first ever win in Happy Valley at Penn State, and did it kind of as they have in these big road games with a dramatic flair at the finish. Refuse to lose. It's not just the merch. It is a mindset now, thanks to Omar Cooper, Fernando Mendoza, so many, Charlie Becker, Riley Nowakowski, everybody on that final offensive drive, Isaiah Jones on the final tackle of the last defensive drive before the offense got the ball back. And of course, Coach Curt Cignetti, who, as we've mentioned, continues to set the messaging for this team with perfection. So welcome, everybody, to the big red carpet. Rhett Lewis back here with you. Peter and Nathan behind the proverbial glass, as always, keeping us rolling. We'll hear from them here shortly as well. We'll get to the offense-defense breakdown. And it's just, it is amazing when you continue to look at the ways in which this team has improved in areas that they came up short a year ago. On the road in a tough environment against Ohio State, a team chock full of NFL players. Say what you want about Penn State's record. That is still the case right now for Penn State. There are probably 10 players from that team that are going to be drafted, if not more. Right. And there's a bunch of them that are going to go in the first 3 rounds of the draft, and probably a couple in the first. Like, they're still that good. And that is still a very tough place to play. As Coach Sig said, the 100,000 plus that were in attendance in this game, you felt it, right? You felt it, you heard it, and Indiana thrived in it. Now, not the entire game, but when they had to, right? There were moments, as there are in these types of matchups on the road. You're not just going to blow everyone out, especially a team this talented. And that was what I said to you last week when we were doing the preview for the Penn State game. It was, this team is still very talented, and that proved that way. And Coach Terry Smith, credit to him, he's got those guys playing for each other and for that university, despite the fact that they continue to fall short. So I don't care what the record says. That was as impressive a win as Indiana's had all year. And some of the most impressive plays of any team, of any season, maybe in college football history. I don't want to get hyperbolic here, but the Omar Cooper catch, let's just, for a second, just start right there. I mean, this is a kid that has had, remember, he had the 100-yard game against Indiana State 2 years ago, and you're kind of like, all right, there's a reason. This was a highly recruited player, and a big win for Indiana in recruiting when he came in, and just kind of kept developing, kept working. And as Coach Sig said, Omar's going to be as good as he wants to be because he's that talented and because he works so dang hard at it. That play, guys, is I can't tell you how difficult it is to, one, have the awareness in a split second, two, to have the body control as your momentum is carrying you out of the end zone. You're kind of getting pushed out too, to bring your legs and your lower half back in enough to be able to get that left foot down fully. That's the important thing, because if it's just the right foot, and I can't really tell whether the right toe actually touched or not, but if the right toe touched and then everything else came down out, if that right heel had come down out, it'd have been out of bounds, even if the toe touched first inbounds. That's important to note here. But because the toe touched and then the left foot, toe, and heel came down inside the white, it was a touchdown. And how about that back judge? That official. We criticize officials enough, way too much, in fact, in college football. That official, the courage to stand there while he could have potentially get, knocked next Tuesday with the way that those two guys were coming at him. He stands there and has his eyes focused from ball down to feet. Feet are in. He goes touchdown, and it wasn't going to get overturned after that. If it was incomplete, well, maybe there's some more question as to whether it's overturned or upheld. Omar Cooper, the Yak God, is now the author of maybe the best catch in Indiana football history. Like, is it too much to say? I don't know. I don't know if it is, but that was super cool. Super cool to see Omar get that done. I'm just going to plug a light back in here for us here so we can get that back on. So Omar was incredible. And that then brings us, let's backtrack, right? Because that was the play of the game, but it was set up by a number of plays. And let's go back. We'll talk about the finishing drive, and then we'll get back into a couple other things on the offensive side. So that drive, first, let's just give credit to Isaiah Jones, right? And to the defense, because they came up with stops when they needed to most. Yes, they had some trouble stopping Katron Allen and Nick Singleton at times in this game. I get it. Like, that was it. And it's a hard offense to prepare for, a hard Penn State offense to prepare for. We'll get more into that in a second. But that last drive, it's a third down, and it's like a boot action. You're thinking, are they going to run it and just try to waste as much clock as possible? They're going to try to throw. They instead play action, boot. Grunkmeyer's on the move. He throws it to the tight end Rappleyea, and Isaiah Jones is there the whole time. Great awareness, great understanding of his responsibility and execution. He brings Rappleyea down, because if it's a first down, that's probably it, right? They're probably able to run the clock out. But instead, they find themselves in a 4th and 7. They actually get the false start, 4th and 12, punt. Indiana gets the ball back. And so here we go. And on first down, sack, right? Coach Cignetti has mentioned that a couple of times since in the postgame and otherwise. Like, that was a play where, again, 100 Indiana teams before this one maybe folds at that moment, right? This team refuses to lose. So that was incredible to see them then bounce back from that sack and hit that first big completion, because that's what you need. You need that first completion to get you rolling. First completion goes down the seam to Omar Cooper. That was incredible. And then you get the quick out to EJ Williams. And then you get the second seam shot. That second seam shot was such phenomenal understanding of the way in which Penn State wanted to play. They had the 3 safety look. The third safety in the middle was cheating towards, I think it might have been Omar on the other side. Also, it was kind of like a double seam look. They're cheating there. And so that leaves Riley finding a little bit of space just past the second level defender, just in front of the safety, and just a absolute dart from Fernando. Big catch from Riley. He had a couple other big catches earlier in the game. We love him as a blocker, but he showed up as a big-time receiver in some clutch situations. None bigger than that one. And then how about our guy, Charlie Becker? My goodness. What a tremendous performance. 7 catches coming in for his career, this season leaves with 7 catches in this game, over 100 yards, leading receiver. Every catch was just a massive grab, high degree of difficulty, clutch, contested catches, explosive plays. Like, this dude is an emerging star. And I am telling you, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with down the stretch this season. And if he continues, this progression starting into next year, like, watch out. That is going to be fun to watch. All right. So that drive then concludes with Fernando in the air, getting on third down, right? Getting sandwich sacked if he doesn't get rid of this ball. How he has the power and the accuracy to get that ball off while being hit simultaneously by a couple of guys in the face of immense pressure, both because of the situation and because of the actual rush, puts that ball in a place where only Omar Cooper can go up and make the catch of the year in college football. Unreal. Just unreal ice in his veins. All right, so you were thinking, right? All right, Isaiah Jones comes up with the stop. They get back there, and How many of you were on X or on social media at that point and you saw all the posts come flying in? Posts like these that we went out and grabbed, like from my buddy Danny Cannell. Yeah. All right, Fernando. How many? I probably saw 100 posts just like that one that were like, okay, if you're the Heisman Trophy candidate that everyone says that you are, you go down, you lead your team to victory in this moment. Throw a couple more of them up there, fellas. Like, yeah, okay, D did their job. Let's go earn that Heisman Mendoza, Fernando. Great work right there. And then here's another one. Yeah, you want to make a Heisman moment? Yeah, here you go. I think the second paragraph probably got a little bit off topic there, but you get the sense on the first paragraph. There were so many from every media outlet, every media personality. I was seeing it from pro guys who cover the NFL, guys who cover college football. Everyone was like, okay, Fernando, eyes of the world watching, what you got? And he was at his best. 2 minutes, plenty of time for Heisman. Thank you for a little confidence right there, T-Bone. We appreciate you. And how about the confidence? Yeah, there was. That clutch drive gave me chills. No question gave you chills. I mean, I'm just set the scene for you. I'm doing play-by-play for Big Ten Network. We have the next game on in the next window was Wisconsin-Washington. Get into that in a minute because obviously Indiana's playing Wisconsin next. But I was down on the field pregame watching that on somebody else's phone and just could not believe how that drive unfolded. It was insane, but like we should have believed it, right? Because that's what Fernando does in these big road environments. Puts the cape on, right? Like literally comes out of the phone booth and becomes Superman, especially after throwing an interception, which he had just done. He did it. It happened against Iowa. Came back and had that massive drive and touchdown pass to Elijah Surratt. Did it against Oregon. Came back, had the massive touchdown drive to take the lead that they would never relinquish again with the TD pass to Elijah Surratt. This time, throws the interception, comes back, and without Surratt on this day, mind you, Becker steps up. Omar Cooper steps in to the hero role and plays the leading character flawlessly. Unbelievable. Unbelievable ice water in his veins. Like that is for sure a Heisman Trophy drive. That's why he should be leading the Heisman conversation. And in my opinion, why he will win that award. But also, who cares? Like, yeah, it'd be cool to have the Heisman Trophy, up in Hinkey Hall, right? It'd be cool to see Indiana have a Heisman Trophy winner, right? But this team has bigger goals. And they have much more in mind, and so does Fernando. And he hit the nail on the head in his post-game interviews, talking about the way the O-line played. Yeah, sure, it wasn't perfect, right? As we get into the kind of the breakdown of this thing, wasn't perfect. He was under more pressure in this game, probably for the first time since Iowa, but maybe the most all year. Now, there were clean pockets. I thought the offensive line and running backs at times and other guys who were involved in the pass protection schemes, like they gave him some clean pockets now. And, it was a little bit of an inconsistent run. It's probably the best way to put it. Now, let's also keep in mind there have been injuries here. Drew Evans still out. So Addimola, Johnny jumps in to left guard. Was in Mahalski a little bit banged up in practice, didn't get the reps. So Johnny jumps in and looks the part, guys. Like I didn't count a whole lot of issues when I'm going back and watching the tape where, Johnny should be blamed for any additional pressure. I thought he acquitted himself very well in a very tough situation to make your first start. So congrats, hat tip there. And then we did have Khalil Benson went out briefly, came back in. He got beat a couple of times, but you're going to have that when you're facing off against some of the best players in all of college football. And again, regardless of record, that is the case for Penn State. Denied Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant, like first round pick type of ability, and showed it and still played like it. I was wondering, like, are these guys, are they going to start to kind of, consider shutting it down here with a great, NFL career coming up? No. And they played their absolute tails off, and they should be, again, hat tip to that crew there at Penn State. Fernando's mobility here, guys, was a big, big deal in this one for me. especially the draw plays, like the QB lead draws. Those were big. Obviously, scored the first touchdown on it, right? I thought some of the game plan stuff here was pretty cool. A couple of little things that I noticed in this game, watching some of the tape back on my flight back from Wisconsin yesterday, heading into NFL Network for our NFL, my NFL coverage on Sunday. I got a chance to get into some of this tape, and so this was early on in the game. I thought this was maybe something they noticed, offensive coaching staff noticed on tape, the way that they were going to line up and play a 2 wide receiver set in kind of a bunch look. So the alignment seemed to mess with Penn State in a man coverage type scheme. And it was Becker who lined up inside and ended up going on a deep route, but the outside receiver who was off the ball just behind and to the left of Becker comes inside. It might have been Omar. Comes inside, and there's a switch between the two DBs that are covering these two guys. And the guy that ends up having to cover Becker understands or doesn't recognize the switch until late. And obviously, we know Becker has elite speed, and he is already out the gate. And that ended up being a huge play to Becker on one of his explosive plays. Ended up having great pass protection on that play, too, which is important to note because Fernando needed a little bit of time to wait for that to develop and then hit Becker deep. Thought that was huge. Great blitz pickup from Roman Hemby a couple of times with an excellent ball placement on a catch into the end zone for Omar Cooper. I thought maybe he could have had it. Might have just been a great play by the DB. I didn't have a great angle at whether the DB really got his hand in and raked it away on that catch. That obviously didn't end up being a catch, but it was in the end zone for a potential touchdown. Mendoza getting out of trouble in this game was huge. You guys remember, I told you guys this to start this season. Fernando's escapability is something Indiana did not have a year ago with Curtis Rourke. And that was just stone cold facts. And so at times it felt like, for let's say Notre Dame and Ohio State especially, you were essentially going to tackle an oak tree, rooted in the pocket, right? And you just weren't going to have that type of escapability and mobility. And this year, Fernando's athleticism has served IU's offense extremely well, especially in getting out of trouble. I thought that was great. This one of these, I think this was still first half, might have been early second half, but watching the way the ball, I'm going to have this on one of the posts that I put out there on social media, watching the way the ball jumps out of Fernando's hands. It is number one overall pick stuff. Like the arm talent is outrageous. Again, this is down in the red zone, right hash, and throws it all the way to the left sideline for Becker, who nearly gets into the end zone, right? And that thing is a frozen rope. I'm telling you, to throw that ball in tight man coverage from the right hash all the way to the left sideline, 1, it takes confidence. 2, it takes extreme talent. And 3, it takes great execution and timing. And you had all of that with Fernando on that throw. Just incredible. Okay, a couple of times in this game, saw Roman Hemby and Daly Black in the backfield together. Not something you see a lot, but saw it a couple of times in this game. Thought that was a really cool wrinkle where you had Daly as a lead blocker a couple of times. And Hemby had some really good carries there. And then I go probably, let's see, I saw this for the second time. It was the 32nd play of the game. Then 6 plays later, they go with that 2-back look. That's 21 personnel, right? So 2 backs and 1 tight end. And they ran lead on the first 2 times that I observed the 2 backfield look, the 2 backs in the backfield look. This time, Kobe Martin's in the game, in as the fullback. Okay. And then I think it was Hemby. It was either Hemby or Black. That was kind of the deep back. Fakes like he immediately, the deep back, whichever one it was, ends up, sprinting to the right like he's going to catch a toss play. This was on the 4th and 1 in the red zone. This is a huge play in the game. And then they just turn and quick hand it to Kobe Martin, lined up as the pseudo fullback. He ends up lunging forward, gets a clutch first down. That was a big, big time deal. Thought that was great. Again, the toughness from Fernando in this game. Insane. Popping back up after each hit, taking big hits, just kept coming, man. That was incredible. Again, just coming back to Becker being a baller. crossing route, big hit, hangs on. Fernando's accuracy on the run. This was late in the game. Becker's coming on a crossing route. Fernando's rolling out of trouble, again, getting out of trouble. And Riley Nowakowski seals the edge on this boot look, and Fernando gets out there and hits Becker. Perfect placement on the run. Becker takes a big hit, hangs on. Tough dude, man. Speed, toughness, hands, clutch ability, ability to make clutch catches. Like Becker is a stone cold stud. I can't wait to see just how much better he continues to get. Okay, that was a little bit on offense. More on defense. Look, the formations are crazy in this game. The personnel groupings are crazy. Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator here, does all of this stuff to try to take the stinger out of defenses. They want you to focus on lining up and where you're going, what you're doing, what your alerts are, so much that maybe you got to play things a little bit more vanilla, and you can't have some of the exotic movements, some of the exotic stuff that some teams like to do. They want you to play a little bit more vanilla, so it makes it clear, a little bit more clear. And then maybe they catch you in some of those switches, and you're trying to figure out where you're going, ball snap, boom, and they're off to the races. That is so hard to deal with, especially when you're talking about, 6 days to game plan for this game. Really, you get a 24 hours, 48 hours to game plan, then you're just trying to fine tune it. But you need to practice for a month to be able to deal with all that stuff perfectly. So my point is, this was not the greatest effort in terms of, total yardage and explosive plays, limited run defense in this game. But I'm just telling you, it's not an excuse. It's just a fact. Alignment and assignment in this game, it's so difficult to deal with on a play-to-play basis. You've got a 350-pound offensive lineman lining up as the tip of the spear in a quads formation and a wide receiver stance. I know you can plan for this stuff. Then they're moving, they're shifting, they're coming back, they're motioning. You had a quarterback who could run the ball that you had to deal with. There's so much going on in your head. You're kind of swimming there. I thought they came through in the second half at the very end of this game and came up with the stop when they needed to. And ultimately, that's what matters. They got the ball back in the hands of the offense with a chance to go down and win, and both sides of the ball did their jobs. I thought Elijah Hardy played really well in this game, had a sack on a really physical and fast twitch type of blitz. Mikhail Kamara had some juice in this game, to me, maybe more so than we'd seen in this season. He had a big TFL. Stephen Daly continues to wreak havoc, right? He had a TFL in this game. He and Kamara, I thought, folded what are NFL caliber offensive linemen in half, like beach chairs. Just folded the right tackle and the left guard and picked up a TFL on the running back early in the game. Again, Isaiah Jones making that tackle on Rapelier, the tight end, on that boot pass, on that third down. That's why we had the refuse to lose catch from Omar Cooper. It's why we had a Heisman type of final drive for Fernando Mendoza and a baller catch by Becker and Riley down the seam. Like, the defense, while not perfect, did what they needed to do in the clutch moments. And when you can count on that, you are a dangerous, dangerous team. So I thought, again, great game plan wrinkles at times from the offense, clutch play by the defense. And yeah, look, again, the numbers, are not going to be the most impressive of the year, but it showed that they can play with, and again, these are elite players. Like, these running backs for Penn State, like this, there was talk before the season that this Penn State offensive line had 7 NFL caliber offensive linemen. You only play with generally 5 at a time. Now, sometimes they'll play with 7, and that's why, because they have that many dudes they can roll through there. And IU held up. They held their own in this game. Again, Penn State only had 336 total yards of offense. It's not like they went off for 500. Now, that's a lot based off how good this defense has been all year long, but still pretty impressive. Pretty impressive what they were ultimately able to do at the end when they absolutely had to have it. So, again, congrats to the defense at the very end there for a big time stop. A couple of superlatives here for you guys to think about. It's kind of strange to think about Penn State as an unranked team, considering they were number 2 in the country coming into the season. Okay. But Curt Cignetti's Indiana teams are 19-0 against unranked teams, which is pretty dang good. First win at Penn State. Aiden Fisher was phenomenal in his return to the game, by the way, just looking at some of the stats here. Now 10-0 for the second straight year. Only 10-win seasons in school history. Insane. Again, you go back to the trends on the road, like down at the end or tied at the end in-ish of a game on the road at Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State. 3-0 in those games. Clutch gene. Got it. That was huge. Fernando, again, we'd love to not throw those fourth quarter interceptions, but the way he bounces back from them, man, should give everybody confidence if it does happen again. And if it happens in the college football playoff, because that's where this thing's headed. Once again, the next rankings will come out, and I don't know or don't care whether they're 1 or 2, but that's where they're going to be. And really, you've got to now refocus, right? Refocus at the task at hand these final 2 weeks, no matter the records. Different type of focus here. Just looking at a couple of other superlatives here. Just thought that overall, this game just proved, I think, not only to everyone outside of the program, but inside the program. Again, it's just like you're building and you're stacking confidence. We can win in any situation, in any environment, in any type of game. That is so valuable as you get into the end of this season, get into a Big Ten championship game opportunity. If all things go well these next 2 weeks, and then beyond that, like you are building such confidence in such crucial situations throughout this regular season, so that no matter what you encounter in the postseason, like, okay, guys, been here, done that, and succeeded in it. Pretty dang cool to think about. All right, so for Wisconsin, I was just there, just saw him. This team is still fighting for Luke Fickell. And I think that's, again, pretty dang impressive, considering that they were on a 6-game losing streak going into this matchup against Washington. They've been an underdog. They, for the third straight year, have lost their starting quarterback. They lost their starting quarterback in this game in the first quarter again. Second time that's happened this year. Actually, the third time that's happened this year. Happened twice to Billy Edwards. Happened once now to Danny O'Neill, who unfortunately started this game and then went down in the first quarter. They had to bring a true freshman who just came off the scout team in Carter Smith to prepare and play this game. And he played, and look, he was, more of a running quarterback type of situation. And that's kind of who he is as a player. He was the player of the year in Class 4A in the state of Florida before he came in. And he is a very talented guy, but he's still raw, right? So they're trying to figure out what's the best way to play him, what's the best way to get the most out of him. And I thought their coaching staff did a phenomenal job. So this team is still playing hard, and now they've got a win that kind of validates the work that you put in, which in my mind makes them even more dangerous. They probably have the best freshman / young linebacking group in the country. Mason Posa, Cooper Catalano, true freshmen, started for the first time in their game in which they played really well on defense at Oregon. And then they just combined for 30 tackles in this last game against Washington. They know how to find the ball. They know how to set the defense up. They know how to lead the group. All as true freshmen. Extremely impressive. Mason Posa, number 8, Cooper Catalano, number 44. Keep your eyes on those guys. They will have a role and have a say in how this game plays out. So look, on offense, you're going to expect a run-heavy attack. Look, the punter was their leading passer in a win over Washington. That's how good the running attack was. That's how good the defense was. Think about that for a second. How many teams can say that their punter was their leading passer in a game in which they won? Obviously a fake punt. So Indiana's defense, in terms of the run defense, will have their work cut out for them. And they have talented receivers, Vinny Anthony, Tretch Kahuna. Like, these guys can get down the field. It's just they've had some inconsistency at quarterback that's made it difficult to do that. Washington, tough one, man. Tough one for their playoff hopes. They were 6-2 coming in. They leave 6-3. It's going to be tough to get into the postseason that way, but still, the build is pretty dang impressive with what Jed Fish has been able to do. Jonah Coleman, their stud running back, one of the best in the country, went down in this game. Denzel Boston, their number 1 receiver, was banged up in the game. So they had some key injuries in some key spots that contributed to the ultimate result here. But again, hat tip to Wisconsin. this is a game that Indiana's going to have to really refocus on. And I thought, again, Curt Cignetti hit the nail on the head with the messaging. This is a team that just knocked off a ranked Washington team in the elements. So again, this is not a team that has lost 6 straight, right? That's not how Curt Cignetti's framing the conversation. That's not how anybody should frame the conversation. This is a dangerous Wisconsin team that has talent enough to beat ranked teams, as we just saw. So that's something to think about on that front. Okay. With that, I'm going to bring Nathan and Peter back, see if you guys have anything you want to chime in on as we close this episode down and get ready to pack the rock one last time on a little senior day action. So what do we got, fellas?
Yeah, I got 2 things kind of from the end of the game I wanted to get your thoughts on. It happened after the Omar Cooper catch.
Okay.
First is a squib kick.
Yeah.
It was a big topic of discussion. I saw a lot of discourse about it. Lots of people weighing in that probably shouldn't be, but your thoughts on the squib.
Yeah.
And then also after that, in the post-game interview on the field, just reaction after the game, we saw Cignetti getting emotional, choking up.
Yeah.
Very rarely, I can't remember a time seeing him like that at Indiana.
No.
What do you think about having him in that environment, letting out some emotion, feeling the passion from him?
Yeah, good call. Good call on that. I would say, on the kickoff, I think this is something that you go over, obviously with your staff, and with Frankie out. Like if Frankie's not out, that ball's going through the end zone. And so because he was out, I think you're thinking, all right, do we chance it and try to get the touchback, or do we, try to run, try to make things a little bit difficult for them in the return game? I gotta go either way on it, but I think they probably just felt like because of, where they were in terms of availability with the kickoffs and personnel, that this probably fit this probably made it the best possible course of action. Plus, like, you got to field it. And when you field it, the clock's running, right? So you're wasting some time. So I think that's part of the calculus. I didn't hate it. Again, it's something you probably decide, you go through these situations during the week. And then when it comes up, you got to trust your preparation. And so that's the decision that they made. I'm okay with that. As far as the emotional stuff, man, I think about it. Pennsylvania kid, said he, used to go down every other year or so and catch a couple of Penn State games and, had some tough days at Happy Valley, right? Some long, sad car rides back home. And so I get that, man. I get that. And I get that. What I loved, though, more than the post game was the pregame interview.
Yeah.
Right?
Awesome.
This team has never won at Penn State. This team has never played at Penn State. This team has never played at Penn State. And how prophetic was that, right?
Yeah.
He's right. Because previous teams that had gone into Penn State and in those types of circumstances in situational football probably don't go out there and get the win. I mean, I was there in 23, the last year with Tom Allen, and, had a chance to win that game at Penn State. Heavy underdogs. But they came through at the end in a clutch situation and made more plays than Indiana did. This time it was flipped. And I think that just goes to the mindset that this team has with Curt Cignetti. So I understand why the emotions were there. 1, the program had never won there before. 2, he's got a lot of history at that stadium, right? Growing up, in that state. So I thought that was cool. What else we got?
Oh, like you said, this team refuses to lose. They seem to make the drive anytime they need to. But I want to talk about something under the radar, actually.
Yeah.
And it's the drives before the half. So all 7 games in Big Ten, they've scored with under a minute to go. And they're the last team to score in all those games. So as a former player like yourself, how does that feel not only for the scoreboard, but also for the morale of the team, going into the half?
That's so big. You go back to the Oregon game, right? And you get the 58-yarder at the end from Frankie, who freaking nailed that thing at the end. And then, defense, you get the the fumble, right? The Tyreek Tucker gets the sack. You get the fumble. Or maybe it was it? Hold on. No, that wasn't the sack. The next play was the fumble recovery, right? You had the sack from Tucker. Next play was the fumble. The fumble was forced by Sharp. Yep. And then Fish.
Fish recovered it.
Fish recovered it. That's right. and they challenged the ruling on the field, run it, yeah, call upheld, right? Okay, yeah. And so like that's a complementary football situation, right?
Yeah.
So defense gets the takeaway, offense comes back out, and what they got a penalty on the first play, right? Of the game or first play of that drive. And then you come back and you find your way in there and Mendoza to Becker, right? That was the play I was talking about, the Becker play. That was the throw from Fernando, right hash all the way down to the left sideline. Thought Becker might have been in. He was like reaching backwards. So it's hard to kind of when these games are going on and I'm not able to watch them live and I just watch it on tape. It's like it's hard to remember the situations as they happen. But then Hemby Black scores the touchdown with 38 seconds left. That's massive because that's the middle eight, right? That's what we call what are you the first in the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. That's momentum, right? You take momentum into the locker room, you bring momentum out of the locker room, you set the tone for the second half. So I thought that was phenomenal. And then, you come out in the second half and you get the interception, right? The interception is the first drive of the second half with Fish. And then you go and you convert that into a field goal. So you win the middle eight. You win the middle eight with 10 points. And it's both times off takeaways from the defense. That is complimentary football, and that is a great observation by you guys. So that was really cool. And on the road to do that, that's massive, absolutely massive. So great observation, great call. Penn State got 0-6 in conference play. Wow. Hard to believe.
Power 4 victories.
Yeah, same. Indiana 7-0 in conference play. And you got Wisconsin at home and then Purdue for the Old Oaken Bucket on the road. Going to be a great finish to the season, boys. Boys, sure do appreciate everybody for being along for the ride here on Big Red Carpet. We appreciate you joining in the conversation. We'll have this episode, ready here for you to preview Wisconsin. Obviously, let us know if there's anything else that you're curious about. Best way to do that, get into the comments section on YouTube. I am in there. I am responding to your comments. If you have questions out there, I will respond to them there as well. We appreciate you listening. If you're listening on audio, wherever you are listening, leave us a rating, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Certainly helps us bring you more content. And we've got some exciting stuff coming up for the postseason as well. So appreciate you guys and look forward to catching you next time right here on Big Red Carpet.